Welcome to the Borderlands.
In this video, dive into the movie Arisu in the Borderland Season 3. We will discuss the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide reviews and share personal reaction. So, let's get started. Alice in the Borderland Season 3 is an exciting addition to the show. When Season 2 ended, I wanted more of this world and its characters. I was so happy with the Joker, K-Cortis, and Season 3's eventual announcement. That Season 2 ending was perfect. The end it would have been hard to top it. I was curious about how allies in the Borderland would justify bringing the Arisu and Usagi back to the Borderland. The show does a good job of explaining why that happens and when we are thrust back into the game with the characters any doubt to go away. The games in season 3 are thrilling and bloody and are very much in line with what one has come to expect from the Netflix series. I had not read the original manga before watched the show, so discovering the series for the first time made for a surprisingly positive experience 4 years later. Season 3 delivers a new chapter that provides closure and new disease. After watching season 2, I became familiar with the manga. Among the elements I discovered was the Flaming Arrows game, which was the first Arisu and friends played in the source material, but had been absent from the show. Knowing it was teased to happen in season 3, I went into the new episodes anticipating it. After watching all 6 episodes of Alice in Borderland season 3, I have good news. Not only was it worth the wait, but it's one of the most thrilling and tense games of the whole season. As always, it's exciting to see Ariso make his way through games like that. Not only figuring out a way to survive, but making friends and helping others move forward with him along the way. Few shows have a protagonist who is so easy to like at all times, but Ariso is surely one of those special characters. Usagi and Ariso's dynamic shows an interesting shift this season after their triumph in the real world. Usagi is also back and showing that he never misses a beat when it came to the action. One of my favorite things about the dynamic of the main character is that Ariso brings the brain, able to find a way out of every game he enters. While Usagi is shows physical force, she is an action hero. Usagi and Ariso's dynamic underscore an interesting shift after their time in the real world. It's too fun to catch up with these characters now that they have changed after some time has passed in the real world. While they showed their characteristics trait during the games back in the Borderland, their motivation and dynamic are now. There is a philosophical questions pertaining to the Borderlands' role as a land between the living and the dead. Now that the truth about it firmly out here after season 2, it is exciting to watch the show explore that concept and the impact the game and the land have on its character throughout season 3. The show offers some profound reflection beyond action beats. We know what the Borderland is and what happened at the end of the games. As such, it became a story about watching these characters and he will to survive and realizing how they can or can't move on from the adversities of their life while finding meaning in fighting the good fight. The show offers some profound reflection beyond action beats. Our new characters, Ryuji, have that side of the show. His connection to the afterlife involves a personal quest fueled by a major tragedy. I enjoyed watching him grow throughout the season, confronting this morality and morality along the way, like Ariso. Ryuji is incredibly smart, making him an asset during the game. The character's mysterious story helped the season. While I believe Alice in the Borderland Season 3 is great overall, passing problems block 2 episodes specifically, the season premiere takes its time to get the character back in the Borderland, and while there are some cool moments in the real world, the show drags a bit before getting the action going. That happened again in episode 5. As season 3's biggest games start getting intense, the show cuts some of the momentum shot with overly long sequences that do add emotional stakes at times, but starting too much, that's sad. Season 3 it's a success, and after a final stage, I would gladly fake Alice in the Borderlands Season 4 or any spin off. All 6 episodes of Alice in Borderland Season 3 will be released on September 25 on Netflix. Alice in Borderland was renewed for Season 3, which confirmed that much of what the Season 2 finally revealed was a lie. Based on a manga of the same name by Hiro Aso, Alice in Borderland is one of Netflix's best adaptations of another media. Alice in Borderland was renewed for season 3, which confirmed that much of what the season 2 finally revealed was a lie, based on the manager of the same name by Haru Aso. Alice in Borderland is one of the Netflix's best adaptations of another media into a live action series, and even improves some respect of the source material. The cast of Alice is Borderland helped bring the world created by Haru Aso to life, and the show successfully combined action, mystery, and drama throughout two successful seasons. Shortly after the release of season 2, Netflix announced Alice in Borderland season 3 was happening, which took many by surprise. A popular show getting another season should have never be surprising, but the way Alice in the Borderland season 2 final played out suggested the story was over. At the end of season 2, audiences learned what was happening to Arisu during the events of the show and how his life was connected to that of the other character. Despite the way season 2 ended, Alice in Borderland is not over yet. The fact of that Alice in Borderland season 3 is happening naturally means that the story is not over, thus confirming that the season 2 final was a lie. While some questions and mysteriously remained unanswered by the end of Alice in the Borderland season 2, the final felt like a good enough conclusion to the series and gave each character a satisfying ending. This was not really surprising considering that Alice in the Borderland season 2 was based on the latter half of the manager, meaning it was adapting the end of the story. Alice in Borderland season 2 final episodes brought the show full circle and answered the series' biggest mystery. Aside from Alice in Borderland, they try a brief short story that sees Arisu and Usagi as adults expecting their first child. There is no sequel to the events of Alice in Borderland Season 2 in the source material wraps up in the same way that Season 2 of the Netflix's live action adaptations did. Arisu and his friends decline to stay in the Borderland and wake up to the real world. Alice in the Borderland Season 2 final was not only a happy one but also a very faithful adaptation of the manager's ending. Between the relatively happy ending and the fact that the live action series had covered all of the manga already, it seemed logical to assume that there would not be a third season of Alice in the Borderland. As successful as the show was, season 2 felt like it was wrapping up the story just like the manga did. However, Alice in the Borderland is returning for a third season after all, meaning that the season sense of finality that the previous final delivered was a lie. Granted, Alice in the Borderland did leave the door open for sequel thanks to the Joker card. Alice in Borderland Season 3 release date may still be far away, but Season 2 happy ending has already lost all of its meaning. We were supposed to believe that Arisu, Usagi and the rest of the survivor were finally in safety. After going through a near-death experience that was translated into deadly games in the Borderland, none of the allies in the Borderland character could remember that happened during the 1 minute they were on the verge of death. But they all felt like they had learned something during this experience. Allies in the Borderland Season 2 final episodes brought this show full circle and answered the series' biggest mystery where exactly the character were this whole time. It also confirmed how much each character had changed and how their time in the Borderland would now help them get through life. For example, wanted to be a different person despite having no member of the game he played in the Borderland. Likewise, Ariso and Usagi were drawn to each other. Even they had no memories of being a couple during the events of the show. None of the scenes in Alice in Borderland Season 2 final felt like a sequel hook except for the Joker card reveal. After Ariso and Usagi leave the hospital and walk toward the sunset together, the episode shifts its focus to a table full of playing cards and obvious references to the show's game. However, after the wine blows most of the cards away from the table, one of them remains the Joker. This led to the dozens of theories regarding what Alice in Borderland Joker card could mean, and they had some merit. The Alice in Borderland manager was published from November 2010 to March 2016. One famous interpretation of the Joker card is that it was a metaphorical way of saying that the most difficult game Arisu had ever played was yet to come, and it was life itself. Another theory is that the Joker card was not supposed to be have an explanation and should instead be perceived as an open ending. Similar to Inception's spanning up top, still now that Alice in Borderland returning for season 3. It is safe to say that the Joker and card was neither metaphorical nor an open ending. It was set up for a sequel. Alice in Borderland season 3 is exciting, but it is running season 2 perfect ending. There is a reason why the original manager ended where it did. All of the storylines had come to an end. The Alice's journey was complete. The first two seasons of Alice is the Borderland tell a complete story that, excluding the Joker and twist, does not ask for a contribution. This does not mean Alice in the Borderland season 3 cannot be good, only that it is taking a significant risk by going beyond the source material. It is quite common for adaptations to expand the story beyond their source material, from superhero movies to anime series. Netflix's Alice in the Borderland has created its own identity and made several changes to manager. Many of which worked there for season 3 may turn out to be as good or even better than the first two. That said, the bar will be very high for Alice in Borderland next season, considering this series already had a perfect, satisfying final that could have served as the show's final episode. Alice in Borderland Season 3 review in the third season of the Netflix series. Arisu finds himself back in the Borderlands after Alice in Borderland Season 3 review in the third season of the Netflix series. Arisu finds himself back in the Borderland after winning all the games in the last season in hopes of finding Usagi, who has been taken back to the world by will Arisu finally be able to overcome this one last obstacle to achieve peace forever. Kento Hayato, Alice in Borderlands Netflix series is based on Jim Alice in Borderland by Haro Eso. There are 6 total episodes with an estimated runtime of around 60 minutes. Alice in Borderland has been a favorite series of mine since the day it was released in 2020, full of thrilling, intense games and introspective questions. That series went beyond its usual fare and brought something unique on the genre. Season 2 was another great addition and was equally entertaining, making us immediately wish for another entry. Now that we have our wish fulfilled, there are some questions, some disappointing bites that break my heart a bite for the show because it has somehow taken away the charm that we have loved about it. In season 3, Usagi and the Ariso are back in the borderland, but the most annoying part of it all the that Usagi is somehow unbothered about telling her husband her thoughts and feelings before she makes a life after decision. There are clear development in their relationship that delicate how the series will go moving forward, which made me roll my eyes. The best thing about the last two seasons was the fact that both of these characters, also beloved, were rational thinkers. I think the issue here is that both of these characters are very central to the story's conflict, and the way that she is made to behave for the plot to progress does not make sense for the person and she is on at least the person that we have come to know our 16 episodes. Moreover, she follows a random man she might want to achieve whatever goal she was thinking of achieving, and even that goal becomes a second thought the moment she arrives at the borderland because then she starts to think about the only Ariso. It's very odd. However, it's with very aesthetism. The series breaks down the moral dilemmas that we all go through in life extremely well. I think the explanation of what and where Borderland is quite interesting and makes you may take notice. However, is the ending that I am majority disappointed with. We end on a cliffhanger that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I get cliffhanger and all about, but it introduces what seems like something completely new. I want you to get attention through it, but it makes the ending feel sloppy and confusing. In the end, I am disappointed with this season. While I enjoyed the games, some of them felt a bit too similar to previous ones that we have seen. Of course, some of good new ones were extremely fun to watch, but overall, not all of it was a hit. Alice in Borderland Season 3 was a miss for me. I was eagerly waiting for the season, and although it had some very interesting twists and turns, it overall felt weak and bit illogical in some areas. I had many questions that went either unanswered or ignored by the end of the series, and not in a good way. Overall, I guess fans will get a kick out of the games, but that's about it. Episode 5 of Alice in Borderland Season 3 start with the final game beginning. Each of the players find themselves construction of the Sabia with digital screen all around. They are not actually in the real world here, but each player is encouraged to follow their digital double as they appear on screen. Following their doubles leads to a series of rooms, and it does not take long for the group to do this themselves together with Usagi and Arisu engaging in a heartwarming reunion. When Arisu spot makes him upside the head and believes he has caused Usagi harm. However, she does not see it that way. She believes competing in these games again has helped bring them closer together and give her some much needed closer joy. Despite it being 9 constant in the room, the final is announced to be 10 constant in total. Well, it turns out we have gone full of secure game season 3 here and decided the baby is also a player for the final. It's a hell of a way for Usagi to find out she is pregnant, but they don't have time to ponder this for long. For this final game, they need to put on wristband and collar. The game is called Possible Future. There are a total of 25 rooms, arranged of 5 vertical and horizontal columns. Each round player have to roll the dice found on a platform at the center of each room. The resulting number then determine how many people can advance to the next chamber. They basically have to repeat this until there is one exit. There are 15 rounds in total. But it's not that easy, of course. Players who do not advance because of the dice roll cannot move and are locked on. Procedure will occur. The only way to get them out is for two players to use their wristband on either side of the locked room to lift it. Each player is allocated 15 points to pass from one room to the next. Players must spend 1 point, hold their wristband up to the door. Returning to the room they have just left mean they need to wait for an entire round to pass before being allowed to double back. If they stay in the same chamber, 1 point is deducted from the total each round. If a player's point tally reaches 0, they will be eliminated. The walls of each chamber display images of possible future. For the players, the future have choices among those images will become their reality when they leave the game. I also believe the best thing they can do here is team up together, and they are joined by two new players this round, Sohota and Yuna. The dice and the door are connected by color, and their futures seem to be changed depending on where they decided to go next. Given the dice rolls, only a certain number of individuals can go through each color depending on what's rolled. They mean some people have to choose what's future of themselves. I also believe the game here is to choose the door with the highest number, therefore, not wasting as many points. The group are split into teams and reverses a strategy to move through the maze to find the exit. The idea is to try and meet back up again after splitting into different rooms by choosing those close by. Thankfully, they watches to show their locations inside the game and allow them to communicate with one another. So there is no danger of them being turned around. Unfortunately, some rooms have been designed as minus room, meaning player will lose points ranging from 1 up to 10, while everybody is up on board to begin with. It's clear that there is a descent allow growing. Not only is he faced with his own with Usagi, he is also swayed by the various future too. However, it also counts as two people because of her baby. So although she does not get double the point to begin with, which seems a bit unfair, right? She does have a separate wristband for the baby. It certainly raises the stake for which room they can go into. Thankfully, the groups can communicate via their watches too, and when Roy is forced to stick behind, they need to lift her locked door and double back. However, believes they need to be find the exit first rather than saving other. Unfortunately, these projected future are also having quite a effect on different players given their histories. Sohta and Yuna are too affected quite badly and decided to live in a different direction toward a happier future. This is also causes long term to remain in place. They chooses a better future and ignore Ariso's release, but it backfire. Big time. The same thing happens for Nobu too as all three find themselves reeling from big point deduction. The challenges become all too real for everybody, especially as the future touch on some really difficult and trying moment in each of their life. One of these that's tasted to the max is Testo. We have seen him wrestling with his York and alcohol riddled past and a lot of distance. When she shows up before him, Tetsu is interested will encourage it to set up step to one of the rooms, which happened to be 8-point deduction room. Given at the time of entry he has 7, it kills him outright. Nabu fights a little better and heads back to room B1, thus saving himself, but by now, everybody is separated around this arena and there are only a few corners left to find and exist. Zohda also winds up dying here too, in a cruel twist of the fate that takes him away from Yuna into a different room. She rolls a zero and can't proceed to join him, but it turns out to be a blessing in disguise for her. Poor Zohda is not lucky. He is given a hefty point reduction too, and as Arisu meets back up with it Rai lifting her dog lockdown, while the groups are finally reunited in two separate rooms. Unfortunately, Yuna races into the room with her brother and Arisu can't bring himself to deduct point from her, so he's left with a dangerously low tally. Meanwhile, Nobu and Ryuji are forced to split up again three ways. It would appear that their room is a room A3, but it's also the room that deducted 8 points. They need to choose wisely here. Also, for some reasons, nobody is deducting points from the baby. There are big choices to make here. Who will come out of this in one plus? The episodes of the season session is one of the longest and it certainly helps with fleshing out more of our character. There is some lovely editing with the labyrinth as the camera smoothly tracks between the different rooms, while the diagram and colors work well to give this an eerie sci-fi feel. In a way, it's quite reminiscent of the movie Cube. It takes 5 episodes, but we finally get some crucial backstory for a different player in this final game. It works well to the psychologically test every single one of them, but it also feels like it could have come sooner. So we understand their plights and they are fighting for. Alarmingly, Alice in the Borderland also goes the same routes as Scare. Game decided to include a baby into the game for the final when it was never mentioned nor affected in any of previous games. This also causes havoc for the game rules here because, of some reasons, nobody has taken points from the baby. Of course, this could change our final, but it seems odd that these players are fighting over what do you baby you here is feeling with 15 points. Even with these griefs through, there is enough here to worry appetite, but it's clear by this point that season 3 is nowhere near as strong as the previous seasons have been. After nearly 3 years, it is time to return to the strange and deadly world of Alice in the Border. When we last saw Arisu, he and fellow survivor Usagi were happily married, living peaceful life with no memory of their harrowing time in the borderland. Now they are called back to replay one more as the final Joker card is revealed, unleashing new deadly games. Here is a look at every game featured in season 3 of Alice in the Borderland, including the rules, the player, and how each deadly contest plays out. Players gather around the table with their cards even. Each player is to draw a card from a player or the deck. Discarding pair. Anyone who draws a joker or moves from the seat in the attempt to escape will be eliminated by acceleration through the chairs. Whoever is left holding the final card wins. The game began with the player passing the joker back and forth, watching one another die by electrocution. Ryuji, an assistant psycho- psychologist at Afterlife, and remains calm as the other panic. Their scream filled the room as the player are eliminated one by one until only and one other remain. In an act of mercy, heals that holds Joker, but the other player chose this as instead, leading to his own death and leaving the winner. Each player must draw 10 fortune slip. If there is this were the scared fortune slip accurately and survive. They clear the game. Each person may draw only once with a time limit of 1 minute per draw. Like in the first season, none of the players who arrive in the arena now wait are there except Arisu draws the first slip and nothing happen. The second player draws a complex math problem and answers incorrectly by a margin of 3 in leasing 3 for arrow. Once a strike here and to hit a bystander when another player tries to run. Laser kills him instantly. Only then to the player realizes the stakes of the scam. The next player misses a probability questions by 55, unleashing 55 arrow as everyone scramble for cover. The fourth draw is missed by 50, triggering the another ready volley. The questions continue, sending more and more arrow raining down on the terrified player. On the ninth draw, a woman is asked how much cow's blood is used to make 1 liter of milk. She guesses 2, but the answer is 450, and dozens are killed in the barrage. Arisu step up for the final draw asked for the population of Earth. He answered 7.9 billion, just shy of the correct 8 billion, and the sky erupts with the fire. He recalled the rule to despair and sleeps accurately, realizing the good fortune slip contained clue to safety. Firing the directions, Adiso finds an underground tunnel and escape with a handful of survival, clearing the game. Several teams compete in the game, each participant is that even playing card, which are used in the one matches as designed to able to all the facility. In each match, player must play cards from the suit they were dealt, and the player with the highest cumulative total win. The winner take one card from the loser's hand, and the process repeated. One person per group receives a zombie card, with 4 in play across all team. Drawing it is instant win, and the losing player becomes infected, joining the winner's side and adding the zombie card to their hand. Shotgun card. Each player receives one shotgun card, which can kill a zombie once but does not work on women. It also shockingly kills the person for real. Randomly distributed within each group. When played, it cancels the zombie card and it restores infected player, but cannot be used on oneself. The goal is to prevent the separate a zombie. The game ends after 20 rounds. Players who run out of number card are eliminated, and the side with the most player remaining wins while the feud is wiped out. At first, Ariso and his team avoid other groups, but their paths inevitably cross. A player named Roy proposes a plan to gather as many vaccines and zombie cards as possible to form a trust barricade. As tensions rise, a rival team turns reckless, escalating into the violence. The game spiral into a frenzied witch hunt and a bloody bid for survival. Realizing the zombies are destined to win, Alice infect everyone is in his group, with a team made entirely of zombies. Alice's team wins. To clear the game, player must move from the starting car to the lead car and stop the train after the siren sound. Each time a player enters the new car, the door locks and other oxygens or poisonous gas is released. There are 8 cars total, with poison gas in 4. Upon entering, player have 30 seconds to decide whether to use a gas mask. Each player receives 5 canisters to neutralizing the gas. Canisters cannot be stolen and player cannot return to previous cars. Usagi and the others enter the first car, which is filled with gas. They use one canister, but a scan reveals it is only oxygen. In the second car, they use another canister and survive poison gas. In the third car, some player chooses now to choose their mask and it proved to be safe. A passing train showed cars of a wrong choice, with its passenger dying in agony, spewing blood from their liquid organ. In the fourth car, several skipped mass again, but this time the corridors and doors unmasked, conclusive, and bled out. Our train in the group realizes a pattern and helps navigate which car. Arisha believes that Osagi needs to move up on room A2, essentially forming a diagonal line to release from her lockdown and make her way back to the other. Realizing the clue is the waistband, their idea is to keep the child's wristband in A3, thus not initiating lockdown and allowing Yosaki brush back. Placing the wristband held by the doorway should allow them to grab it without ever stepping foot in the room and losing a lot of point. The only way to make this happen is to USA Yuna, who still has 11 points on her wristband and can help them come out of this in one piece. However, Vajay hated not being on was the child's wristband being pushed deeper into the room because of the door mechanism. Usagi thus managed to pick up the wristband just in time, but only thanks to Yuna getting a point direction and Ryuji using his chair to wedge open the door. With the rooms open, Usagi catches a glimpse of the possible future involving the Ryuji shooting her and the Arisu dying, with the path forward to A5 and the exit inside. Early players are finally joined together for the final room. The colors are wristband are removed and it came down to final dice roll. Arishu volunteered to roll since he is the main character and he knows this will decided their fate. They roll up 7 meaning 7 people can live, with 8 players in total. One of them will need to stay behind. They don't go for the baby through as Arishu sacrifices himself to save the other. He watches from inside the room as the players are caught on a blank balcony outside, but Arisu is shocked when he notices Ryuji get his own and chooses not to fire. He can't bring himself to kill Osagi and love chicken. As for Arisu, his sacrifices is not made in vain, since he helped everybody as God giver their future. The narrative confirms that he is also being given a future. A Joker card rocks up once again, while Usagi and the other outside are forced to endure a horrific flood as the world looks set to be consumed and destroyed completely. The screen suddenly changed and Banda appeared before Arisu. He turned out the protagonist and explained that Arisu can now become a citizen of Borderland and he can enjoy more games together. He boasts about how he used Usagi as bait to lure him in. Smashing up the wall, Arisu managed to force the door mechanism open so he can save Usagi and the other from defeat. He brings from back inside one by one before the flood can take them also. Usagi is caught in the water and tumbles deeper into the world. Arisu wastes little time and dives in after her, with time of the essence in the real world, with the Banda waiting out Arisu to die, and can somehow see Banda and races over to stop him. After she grabs at nothing, it's enough for Banda to live. Arisu does not drown and instead of being shot by Banda. When he arrives on the shore, a mysterious shadowy man appears and kills Banda instead. When the man appears before Arisu, time freezes. This is now the Joker, but a guy called the Watchman. He is the guardian of this plan, and his role interest lies in being a guardian to watch the space between life and death. He encourages Arisu to take a seat and play and final game with him. He can choose one or two cards from a pack, but if he happens to draw the Joker, his destiny will be decided by the Watchman alone. Well, both cards are Jokers, and his man explained that the Joker is neither an entity that controls this world nor a person. The Joker is just a card. Because of the crazy coincidence with these two Jokers, Arisu is offered a choice who can either choose that via a vortex that will drag him down and kill him. Alternatively, he will be granted life, but it will be painful and difficult. As for the Watchman, he is sticking around as he is actually afraid of dying and finding out what comes after. Instead, he sticks around with the games to keep himself entertained and want to meet Arisu face to face because The main interest him, gives his different outlook in life. He's had many encounters with that in the past, of course, but he's not afraid of dying like the watchman is. Given the borderland is a place between life and death, he knows that Arisu will be back and eventually choose that. It's just a matter of time. This could come sooner rather than later. As the watchman was, there is. Arisu chooses the land of the living, but Usagi is caught just outside the vortex. Arisu chooses the land of the living, but Usagi is caught just outside the vortex. Given Usagi is the most important person to him, he chooses to save her and swim into danger to do what he can for her. However, decided to make amends of our rejection and saves Usagi from certain bloom. Keep on living, he says to Pear before allowing himself to be thrown into the vortex. Usagi and Arisho survive, while Usagi also has a reunion with her father too. Reconciling with her fear, her dad encourages her to be happy and pushes her to survive. The pair escape the vortex clutches and manage to move toward the light and subsequently life. Arisho awakens in his body, back in the real world. Arisho has been gone for 2 minutes and just made it out. After a few seconds more, and he may not have done. He thanks Anne for watching over him and leave. As for Usagi, she awakens in hospital and Muture jokingly to Arisho that she is hungry. Ryuji does not make it, as we know anyway from the vortex, with the secret of their pregnancy. Out through Usagi and Arisho think of name of their child. The other characters who survived are back in the again including the survivor from the previous seasons as well who woke up to see Arisho while he's working. We catch up with all the different characters, including the Krisha, Kunia, and other survivor. However, we heard about something worse coming from the watchman, and unfortunately, it looked to be open us. The news reported there have been multiple earthquakes that have hit around the planet, and it seemed we are about to get a much bigger game here. We then skip across to California, where we see a server by the name of Alice. The camera zooms into her name tag and cuts to black. But is this is a games master, or is this a hint that California is our hellscape for season 4? We do finally get some answer in this final, and it would appear this watchman has basically prophesied an extinction event across the globe with many people thrown into a huge series of life and death game. However, to get to this point, Alice's Borderland thesis in ending that promises a season 4. So just like with the Scare game, why the whole allure with Alice in the Borderland was because it was not Americanized and abiding by Hollywood's value. It stuck closely to the manager and Abel embellished his policies, making for a really tight and well-written series. To then abandon that and go global feels like a betrayal of what made this series so great to begin with. However, we may be getting ahead of ourselves here if they stick to Japanese writer and the same creator, but add in a few international players. That may work quite well, but it all rests on the writing, which has not been as strong this year despite some good moment. This concept of the Borderlands and what it meant to be fight between life and death is explored in a compelling way here, and the final export takes a lot of time to establish just how easily human can be swayed and how psychologically weak a lot of us are in the face of temptation. I don't think the baby was handled particularly well here, and the final game really needed a couple of antagonistic players to be disturbedly established over to make things that much more tense. Some characters too managed to come out of the saving phase, including the Ryuji who stops his destiny and does not resort to killing Usagi. Instead, he sacrifices himself to experience his near-death promise. The game have largely been compelling, and the final cameos from his surviving player is such a great touch, especially with our goat showing up the Arizo. But then it all comes back to the global threat. Let's face it. Does anyone trust Hollywood to do this franchise justice, out turning this into an American culturally vandalized cash up grab? The announcement of third season itself felt like a capitalization effort, it I'm being honest, on the back of its own popularity because the final of season 2 of Alice in the Borderland, except for a teeny bit. did not really leave much to the interruption. I liked it about it. I was confused, sure, had a ton of questions about, but I was satisfied with the ending. So when it was announced that it's coming back for another season, I thought, yeah, alright, maybe we get some answers. But no, I am just disappointed that did not anticipated my disappointment. Firstly and again, it's not like there was room for much interpretation except for that very last scene in the previous season final. But I do appreciate a show that can end satisfactorily and still leave a bit to the imagination. Revisiting that plot over and over again kind of takes away the shock factor because you know what's coming. I was going to watch it anyway, and surprisingly, it held to so well. The story picked up perfectly from where it left off. The premise was quite exciting because all the characters, old and new, were now back in the Borderland playing against the Joker. It's seemingly no structure, no rules, situation, which I loved. It is a perfect embodiment of the Joker card coincident into a plot. The new characters were surprisingly very immediately likable, which I have found is quite rare in sequel. The game once again had me on the edge of my seat. Sometimes even made me cry because we all know what goes on in term. And just watching Arisu in screen again. The new characters were surprisingly very immediately likable, which I have found is quite here is equal. The games once again had me on the edge of my seat. Sometimes even made me cry because all I know what goes down in them. And just watching Arisu on screen again was nice because I love Alice in Borderland with episode. The story just kept kicking into place and I was so happy. Finally, a sequel that felt fresh and innovative. That thought lasted for episodes, longer than I thought. It would, but not long enough, because with every edition, this season was starting to look more and more like another show I know. One that Netflix is released just a while ago. One that I would rather not talk about. Not a huge deal in the massive scheme of things, but unfortunately, this is also where I started losing interest. They did manage to reel me back in with final game, but wow, that final. I did not like that final because I did not sit through 5 good episodes to end with a debate on the crisis of existence. It left me with so many questions and not any that I could answer myself. By the time it was over, I repeatedly asked myself, that's it. Because all that happened felt like it. The final was not it, but even worse was the very last scene for the love of all things good. Let's not make this a habit. I will once again mention this so I will not mention because they pulled the same thing months ago. Let's stop milking the cow. We do not need a remake. We do not need another sequel. Let's just not. This season itself felt like an afterthought. We do not need more. This was a strange experience. I enjoyed it, but I am still not satisfied. I loved seeing more. But I don't not think the stories need to be developed anymore. While it was nice to see all the characters from the first couple of season again, I hope they don't revamp this plot. For 6 episodes, this was mostly enjoyable. If you enjoy the prequel, chances are will you enjoy this season as well. You might also be just that bit disappointed, but it's fair. Alice in Borderland Season 3 games. Netflix fantasy thriller Japanese series is back with another round of thrilling games and death-defying questions as Arisu and Usagi find themselves back in Borderlands. Alice in the Borderlands Season 3 cast Kento, the globally successful Japanese science fiction thriller Alice in the Borderland premiere in third season, continuing the high stakes in narrative of survival in a parallel. Dystopian Tokyo, the series, which has consistently ranked among the most viewed non-English titles on its platform, reaching the top 10 in over 90 countries, built upon the established premise where individuals must compete in deadly games to live. These games, categorized by Alice in the Borderlands Season 3, is an exciting addition to the show. When Season 2 ended, I wanted more of this world, that is character. I was so happy with the Joker and this and Season 3's eventually announcement. Alice in Borderland back to the land of the madness. The end of Season 2 of Alice in Borderland and had made us leave Ariso and Usagi, who proves here again Here, immense emotional return to their reward. Amnesia and traumatized violators close to step. For all fans of Japanese feeling survival drama, there is some good news. As Alice in the Borderland, which is a popular series on Netflix, is all set to return with the season 3. The upcoming season is expected to blend suspense, psychological tension, and kart racing action. The first season of this show premiered in December 2020, and since then, it has gripped audiences with its blend of survival games, psychological tension, and unexpected Alice in Borderland Season 3 games. Netflix's fantasy thriller Japanese series is back with another round of thrilling games and death-defying questions as Arisu and Usagi find themselves back in the Borderland. Kento and Alice in Borderland. Netflix's series is based on the manga Alice in Borderland by Hiro Aso. There are 6 total episodes with an estimated runtime of around 60 minutes. If you are interested in the figure out what happened in the series and what the exciting new games and their rules are, look to no further. This season, Ariso and Usagi play the game separately, reuniting later on its series. So it's double D, thriller, action, and bloodshed. Players have to draw 10 fortune slips and test their luck. If they successfully disappear the scared fortune slip accurately and manage to survive, then they will win the game. Each person has to draw one slip at a time, and the time limit is 1 minute per draw. The catch here is that if fortune slips come with the number problem, and if the player gets an answer wrong, then flaming arrows will be thrown at the crowd according to the margin of error. Each participant will receive 7 playing cards, each that they can use to play a one-on-one games at designated areas. In the games, players have to play cards from the same suit from the hand dealt to them. The person with the highest cumulative total win. The winner receives one card from the losing player. There are 3 special cards in the game called a zombie card that will be given to only one player from each group. The card guarantees on instant win and infect the losing player by the zombie and receive it as well. There is one card that can stop the zombie from multiplying, a shotgun card that can kill a zombie and can only be used once by one player. This last special card is the vaccine card, which is distributed randomly among the group and can cancel the zombie card and turn a zombie into human. However, it cannot be used on a person holding the vaccine card. All participants are on a moving train that does not have a driver. They have to move from their starting car to the lead car and stop the train when they hear the siren to win the game. The catch is that when the participant move from one compartment to another, the door will lock automatically and after 30 seconds either oxygen or poison gas will be released. They'll have 30 seconds to decide whether or not to put on their mask and use the consister of neutralizing agent provided. Poison will be dispersed in only 4 and 5 cars and they will have 5 consistents. Lastly, they can't use each other's constituents. Constant have to play bingo on the Tokyo Tower and the press the buzzers installed at different places. They must complete a vertical, a horizontal, or a diagonal line on the bingo card to win the game. In this game, they can work as a team to complete the bingo. At the top of the tower, there is a free buzzer that corresponds to the free space in this bingo. Before time runs out, player must return the game to its original starting point and insert it to the base. There are 10 total cans and all of them have blasted attached to them. Plus the cans are time bombs and are triggered the moment someone loads them. Releasing the time bomb reset by the time deceased by 5 seconds every time it changes hands. There are 25 total rooms in a 5 by 5 box. In each round, player will roll the dice and the number indicate how many people will move on the next round. With a maximum of 15 rounds, player must repeat the process to get out in the end. However, player who will be left behind will be locked in a room and only another player can let them be using their wristband. Each player has 15 points and when the clutches oh, they are eliminated. The player will be shown their future. They will have to be chosen as they advance through the round. In the end, the future that they are chosen will become really once they exist. Before season 3 landed on Thursday, September 25, I being the first to installment and watched the media preview of the new season, and quickly remembered why this gory, violent, and surprisingly contemplative series had me hooked in the first place. For the uninitiated, the show follows a distracted gamer, Arisu, Kento was thrown into a deadly parallel version of Tokyo. He is forced to survive by competing with these strangers in a brutal game that tests intelligence, agility, psychology, and teamwork. If you are new to Alice in the Borderland, you may read the show's overarching warning that your choice could be your last, as a reflection of society growing frustration with the belief that life is inherently devoid of meaning, purpose, or value. After all, there is a little point in fighting to live with that is inevitable. With Borderland now of psychological rather than physical realm, the season turned into focus to what come next after surviving a traumatic event. For Usagi, no marriage to Ariso, healing is long, lonely and less than linear, haunted by dreams of her dead father and unshakable desire to mend her wound. She is pulled back into the borderland purgatory with the help of a man who studies the afterlife. Ariso, meanwhile, is thrust into the borderland by his own desperate quest to find his wife. Even the couple don't reunite on screen until halfway through the season. To remain to its seasons, the team returned to the source Lewis Carroll's Alice in the Wonderland. In the 1865 classic, Alice follows a white rabbit down a rabbit hole, leading her to the Wonderland, where just like in the Borderland, the rules of the shared reality don't apply. Carroll's talk text became their Bible sad statue. We had to really contemplate why the original author of Alice in the Borderland had his work echo Alice in the Wonderland, and it took us back to the Lewis Carroll story and the idea of retrieving the lost rabbit, which is the Osage. Two Ariso and Usagi spent most of the century apart. The emotional groundwork laid in the first two seasons kept their bond palpable on screen. Having done season 1 and 2, my character emotions for Ariso are very solid. They never wavered even if we were shooting separately, and I think there's something you can see come across added today in Japanese via an interpreter. Like a lies down the rabbit hole, those who go back to the borderland, his season are not driven by rash act of despair, but the purpose noted producers Akira Mori and Tomoki takes in a Netflix's press kit. Returning to Borderland might suggest they are not exactly clinging to life, but each character must live with the intention in the parallel dystopia to outwit its immersal game. Dialogue line about episode 5 base game, for example, state that each room reveals possible future and only those brave enough to face their own pace can advance. No surprises here, not at all too. Arisu has grown from the past season and he tried to do his best to save as many people, or not lose as many people, as possible. The story cuts into this inner human struggle, especially with the psychological battle. Shared lead actor Kento of his character via a Japanese interpreter. We see the darker side of humanity that we probably don't witness in real life, and to be able to see it is one of the fascinating things about the show. Similarly, director Sato was very deliberate about keeping the borderland anchored in the everyday Tokyo, where familiar architecture and roleplay make the show outbended reality it harder. Season 3 opens in Shibuya, one of the busiest districts in the Asian metropolises and municipal, and in the future destruction. That visual is not necessarily philosophical, Sato said, but it's central to the series' themes. These include existence versus mortality, merit versus luck, and pointlessness versus purpose, areas that we confront in real life. ISO is a stand in for all of us and our very real coordination existence, Sato explained. A regular man whose life turns topsy-turvy the moment a crosses in Borderland. Aristo's story could exist only in a Tokyo turned upside down, and in that inverted city, every cross forces him and has to confront what choices really means. I will admit I expected Alice in the Borderlands psychological backdrop to feel like a game abstraction. Instead, it sharpness the show core messages. Life choices are really black or white, and we are is forged in a murky gray before we act. Some people are paralleled by choices, others paralyzed. But the point is not to obsess over searching for a single right answer, even if we are doing it mentally, as Alice in the Borderland reminds us. It is perhaps to grasp that every decision carries consequences and the agency never disappear, even in our heads perhaps. Especially there, we are all one choice away from a different life. Alice in Borderland is one of the most popular Netflix's live action series. However, it did not gain popularity until the arrival of the survival game show Secret Game is 2021. Alice in Borderland Season 3 will release on September 25, 2025 on Netflix. The previous season was released in December 2022, so it's evident that fans are eager to see how things went for the survivor after they made their way back home from the parallel universes. Finally, after 2.9 years, everyone will get their answer. There will be a 6 episodes in Alice in Borderland Season 3, making it shorter than previous seasons. While most of these characters who appeared in the Alice in Borderland Season 1 and 2, that while playing the brutal game, several fresh faces will enter the picture in the new season. The new addition to the cast are Kako, Hyunki, and Kotorio. Yes, we have an action-packed trailer for the Alice in Borderland Season 3 that reveals what we can expect from the anticipated installment here. We are embedded the video clip for you to have a look. But the memories of the Borderland continue to give them goosebumps. A new mysterious character appears. He is obsessed with the afterlife, so he attacks Usagi and forces Arisu to return to the Borderland if he wants to save his beloved, having no other choice. Arisu must follow the instruction, team up with a new player, and fight for his wife's well-being. Also, this time is the final card every player stuck in the Borderland must face. Alice in Borderland fans get a major update about the series' long-awaited third season. The hit Netflix series now has a release date for its third season. The teaser trailer for season 3 of Alice in Borderland premiered on YouTube on July 7 via the official Netflix's YouTube channel. The trailer fronts the survivor of season 2, namely Arisu and Usagi, who have finally been given passage back to the real world. Since then, the pair have made a new life together, one in which they are married and can move on from the horror of their past. At least that is until Usagi vanishes and Arisu is given a final card of the deck, the Joker, based on the Hero and Associate 2010 mangas of the same name. Alice in the Borderland premiered on Netflix back in 2020 and immediately found a foothold as its latest streaming sensation. The series stars Kento, compulsive gambler and black sheep of his family who becomes trapped in a parallel version of Tokyo where he is forced to play little. Sadistic games for the player for an unseen audiences. Alice in the Borderland also stars Joe was a mountain climber who teamed up with the LCO while trapped in the eponymous Borderland all before the two develop some serious romantic interest in one another. Upon its release, Alice in the Borderland was lauded by fans and critics alike. The series' first season was nominated for a whole host of industry awards, including the Best Cinematography and Best Direction at 2021 Asian Academy Creative Award, both of which it won a Long Award for Best Visual or Special effects in a TV series or feature film. The series' first season also held a near perfect 91% audiences generated popcorn meter score via review. Aggregator Rotten Tomatoes also is critical scored stand noticeably low at only 82%. Japan's most watched sci-fi drama series Alice in the Borderland is finally making its long-awaited return with season 3. Nearly 3 years after the jaw-dropping final of season 2 that ended with more sequences that answer. Fans are finally set to discover what happened next in this parallel. Dystopian versus of Tokyo, where survival is the only thing at stake. Ahead of its global release, Alice in the Borderland 3 has already received significant praise from early reviewers and critics in preview screening. If the early reviews are to be believed, the creators have exited the game, with some critics are calling it the bloodiest and the most haunting season yet. So better start rewatching the last season as well as tell you everything about the highly anticipated new season. Alice in Borderland Season 2 probably had one of the most shocking cliffhangers with the ominous appearance of the Joker card, and Season 3 picks up in a aftermath. Arisu and Usagi now return to the real world and happily married, find themselves once again pulled back into the Borderland. As Usagi struggles with the haunting vision of her father and fights to overcome with the lingering trauma, she is abducted by a mysterious scholar obsessed with the afterlife. Meanwhile, Iris is so desperate to save his wife. The entity twists his word. This time he has to confront even more sinister and unpredictable changes than ever before. According to the show's director, Shinsuke Sato, the new seasons of the story delves deeper into the psychological aspect of Borderland than the physical realm. With Aristo at its center, the narrative explores the dynamic between existence and immortality, merit and luck and purpose and politeness. The new seasons will replace some of the original cast, along with several fresh faces in Twisted World of the Borderland Kanto, returned as the show's leading man. Among the new faces, House of Ninja star Kento, joining the cast as the Ryuji, Riza Sadus as Haru. It's only matter of days until Alice in the Borderland Season 3 officially drops on Netflix, and critics who previewed the much anticipated final seasons are already impressed. Being one of the most watched survival thriller worldwide, the stakes are high, and it seems the latest season did deliver. You should probably keep the tissue box ready as it will make you cry and over and over. Cities are praising season 3 darker psychological angle, calling it a haunting yet emotional ride. Comic Book has praised his installment as the best final scene for a Netflix's original in a year, while Radio Times has praised it for being close to perfect, while some noted to the shorter 6 episodes run feel rushed. Most agree the high stack of storytelling and striking visual more than make up for it. The highly anticipated season 3 of Alice in Borderland is set up for a worldwide premiere on Netflix on Thursday, September 25, 2025, perfectly timed for fans to being watched over the weekend. However, unlike the previous two seasons, this installment will feature only 6 episodes instead of 8, making every moment even more crucial. While Netflix has yet to confirm if the story will continue beyond his chapter, promotional material has strongly hinted that season 3 will feature the final game as Arisu and Usagi navigate new alliances, brutal challenges, and the existential elements. Be prepared for a thrilling, bloody, and poignant exploration of what it truly means to survive. If you are a fan of survival thriller films with mystery, high stake tension, and the unexpected twists, Alice in Borderland has likely earned a spot among your favorite. This Japanese sci-fi drama has captivated audiences around the world with the engaging storyline and deadly games. After two successful seasons, fans have been eagerly waiting for the next chapter of Alice in Borderland, from the release date and the platform to the plot and the cast. Here's everything we know for about Alice in the Borderland Season 3. She finds herself back in the mysterious and deadly world of the Borderland, guided by a mysterious man named Ryuji, who has a deep obsession with the afterlife. Meanwhile, Arisu meets Banda, who now lives in the Borderland. Banda tells him where Usagi is leading Arisu to return more once again to the games. Alice in the Borderland Season 3 has created immense excitement among the audiences worldwide. It is gearing up to the release on Netflix within a few days, and viewers have expectations due to its previous season. As fans wait for its release, the early review of Alice in the Borderland Season 3 are out of if you are interested in watching the third season. Then ready verdict here. The reviews for the show are mostly positive, with some critics even calling it one of the best finals. Meanwhile, other reviewers shared that the show has left the viewer with questions again. Alice in Borderland Season 3 ending was about a watchman giving Arisu a choice. He could either die by throwing himself into a vortex or return to the world of the living into a struggle through life with Usagi and their unborn child. How exactly did things come to that? When Arisu and Usagi reached the last stage of the game in Season 2 and essentially gave all the player the choice to return to the real world or stay in this fantastical realm. Yaba and Banda decided to hang back as citizens. They rewarded Arisu and wanted him to return to Borderland too. So Banda recruited to lure Usagi into the realm so the Arisu would come after her. During the final stage, was tasked with killing Usagi. In exchange, I would get to see the land of the dead because with the Usagi dead, Arisu would not feel the need to go back to the world of the living, and he would be play games in the Borderland, thereby fulfilling Yaba series are for all eternity. I suppose was Banda's gambit a success? Did Arisu stay in the Borderland or return to the land of the immortal? Did we get a teaser for season 4? Let's find out. So the final game was largely about the player analyzing their respective future and rolling the dice until they made it all the way to the exit door. When they reached the room with the exit door, Arisu rolled the dice and it landed on the 7. Yes, technically, there were 7 players remaining in the room. Buses Borderland conjures Osagi's unborn child as a player too. That meant there were 18 players in there. Hence, one of them had to go for the sacrifice play so that the rest could survive. Arisu got everyone, including the Osagi, to exit the game room while he stayed black. When he saw raising the gun to kill Osagi, he instantly began regretting his decision. Thankfully, could not compel himself to kill Osagi. That seemed like a win for all. However, the game turned the whole situation on its head by stating that those who were not in the game room were destined to die in a biblical flood. While Arisha would survive, its difficulty flood would not have happened if they had pulled the trigger. But there is a good chance that since he did not, flood was activated and it is threatening to kill everyone, thereby fulfilling Banda's plan for deleting Ariso's motivation to go back to the mortal realm. Arisu was not going to back down easily. As soon as he learned from Banda that he had orchestrated this would not sickle affair just to bring him to the fray, Arisu escaped the game room and went off to save Osagi from the flood. Moments after he jumped into the trouble and waited to get to Osagi, who was getting further and further away from him. Arisu began droning the constantly in the mortal realm. Banda appeared in the room where his physical body was in order to kill him. That said, and the one who had put Arisu in that trance-like state so that he could go into the borderland, somehow noticed Banda and stopped him before suffocating Arisu. A couple of the questions should be addressed here. Firstly, how can Banda shoot between the borderland and the mortal realm? Secondly, how did Anne see Banda? To be honest, I don't have the answer to either of these questions. I suppose being a citizen of Borderland allowed Banda to walk between the two realms. In the form of ghosts as he willed, he was under the impression that he could choose who could see him and who could not. He was clearly wrong because maybe those who had been to Borderland and back had ability to see the citizen, especially when they were in the same room as a person who had one half in the mortal realm and the other in the borderland, which is the case was Ariso. When Banda failed to kill Ariso in a mortal realm, he returned to the borderland by this time. Ariso, after hearing Aaron's scream from the mortal realm, and managed to avoid a drawing and swam to broken building to get his bearing back. Banda appeared after him and realizing that there was no way to compel Ariso to hang back with him, pulled out his gun to shoot Ariso in the head. That's when he laser from the sky made an appearance and killed Banda. Before Ariso could make head or tail of this situation, a mysterious looking individual played by the legendary Ken Venable, who referred to himself as the Watchman, appeared before him and said that he had made a mistake in assigning the Banda the post of handling the game. With Banda gone, the watchman needed somebody to fill in, so he passed the flood and invited Arisu to a game of cards. He passed the flood and invited Arisu to a game of cards. The rules were simple. If Arisu chose any card other than the Joker, he'd get a chance to decide the fate. If he chose the Joker card, then Arisu's fate would be in the watchman's hands. By some odd stroke of luck, bodyguards that the watchman drew from his pack were Joker cards. Hence, the watchman gave Arisu some leeway and gave him a choice. He could either jump into the vortex that his flood was leading to and end it all, or swim back to reality and struggle through life with the Usagi and their baby. Of course, Arisu chose life over death and re-entered in the mortal realm with Usagi. Meanwhile, who had gotten to Usagi while Arisu was drowning, chose go to into the vortex and ended his life. I will take a brief pass go over some of questions that the interaction between the watchman and Arisu raises. Okay, so this much is clear. Borderland is a realm. Those who are about to die in a mortal realm end up in Borderland, and the games are way of lessening their way to life. If they have the determination to make it all the way to end of game, they will be get to live in the mortal realm. If they fail at the game, they will die in the borderland as well as the mortal realm. Those who choose to stay in these in-between places, like Banda and Yaba, essentially become ghosts, but they don't have the freedom to just roam around in this realm. They have to earn the right to exist as a ghost by getting in the watchman's good graces, and if they slip up, they will get lasered. As a watchman, he is clearly a psychopomp who ferries their living from the mortal realm into the afterlife. He apparently tells people to choose that all the time of reasons that I can't quite comprehend. However, Ariso is a rare case who not only chose life every time, he also managed to pull people around him away from the probable alleged. Who turned this realm into the Borderland? Is that show set in a universe where gods exist? If so, are they architect of this realm? Despite not being explicit about its stand on religion, Alice in the Borderland Season 3 first act it take place in a string of sort, which means that the writer are drawing from real life myths about religion, spirit, and everything that exists in between. Since the existence of gods or aliens has not been brought into the mix, I am just going to assume that Borderland came into the existence when the first person from Japan simply refused to die. They had a near-death experiences, or even up in a coma, and during that period, Borderland formed to make room for that individual. They were joined by several others, and in order to make their time fruitful in this realm between the realm, they invented games. Maybe the nature of these games were innocent in the beginning. However, as Borderland started getting depopulated by nefarious soul, much like in Inception, 2 minutes in the real world means several hundred hours in Borderland. Much like in Inception, 2 minutes in the real world means several hundred hours in the Borderlands. So, if someone stays in coma for decades, even without the proper care, they will be alive for centuries in Borderland, and their dad will give them enough time to play games or become the one who construct the game. By the way, I don't think there is a heaven or hell in the universe. You are either alive, playing game in the Borderland, or it's light out. By the way, I don't think there is a heaven or hell in this universe. You are either alive, playing games in Borderland, or it's lights out. If you die in a cataclysmic event like the meteor that dropped in the Shibuya, you are dead. If you have a brush with the dead, you end up in a Borderland, where are you have to choose between life and death. You win the games or survive until somebody has gotten to the end of the game. You get a second choice, where you can either to be one of the most rewarded champion of Borderland or go back into the mortal realm to be a nobody. These are just hypotheses, by the way. Only the showrunner can tell us what's actually going on. Okay, so at the end of the Alice in the Borderland season 3, Ariso chose to go back to the mortal realm with the Osagi and live a relatively normal life. I know that some will see that as a boring choices. As someone who was not has been through anything like what happens in the borderland, but was hospitalized a few days after being born, nearly drowned when I was 10-year old, survived on earthquake 3 hours from the epicenter and faced by the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't think being boring is cowardly or a sign of weakness. Being witty, one of you love, choosing baby names, and a working 9 to 5 job. Going on vacations occasionally, eating good food, and watching great movies is a great way to live. Life should be an adventure, not a demented version of the battle royal. During the closing moment of this show, we saw Arisu giving therapy lessons to his friends and enemies from the first two success last season. They seem to be doing fine. The survivor of the latest installment of the game were also turning a new leaf in their respective life as a result of the vague memories they had of it being in the game. It looked like peace and had been restored in this universe, and the show was about to bring down the Saturn, but as predicted by the Watchman, Borderland was about to be flooded by new constant because the whole planet and recorded a number of earthquakes. One of those constants will apparently be a woman named Alice from Los Angeles, USA. What the hell does the mean? Has the show turned into the commentary on climate change? Does Borderland have any sway on the state of mortal realm? Are we going to get an American spin-off? Since we have already seen biblical flood, it would not be a stretch also to say that yes, the earthquakes are a direct result of what humans have done to the planet. We keep saying that we don't need to care about climate change because of Earth implodes or explode. We don't feed a thing. This level of apathy is making things worse, and I suppose the showrunner want to inject some fear into the such people by saying, "What is the last second of your life are filled with the most horrifying adventure imaginable? What if the apocalypse did not kill you? And while you were fighting for your life in the mortal realm, you were exposed to horror beyond human comprehension in the borderland. Would you want to go through that, or would you like to ensure that the climate does not get you so bad that you find yourself playing a bunch of games in Borderland? I am on the side of climate activities. I don't know about the rest. As for Borderland manipulating the mortal realm so as to push people into the purgatory, that's a stretch. Yes, Banda did between the mortal realm and Borderland, and if he could touch somebody physically, and it's possible for enough psychopath like them to combine their power to destabilize the mortal plane. Sure, why not? This is not sci-fi anymore. We are dealing with the mythological, spiritual, and supernatural stuff anyway. Hence, yeah, maybe it's possible there is some kind of scale that need to be balanced in order to maintain the pace in the mortal realm. In Banda's absence, it's possible that Yaba has taken center stage and shifted the scale in favor of Borderland via earthquake. And since this is a global event, I suppose we are going to see players coming in from all over the world, not just Japan. I understand that Alice in the Borderland is play on Lewis Carroll Alice Adventure in the Wonderland. With a whole normal life is bring and the Borderland life is awesome. The show kind of pays homage to matrices where Thomas Anderson was asked to follow the rabbit down the rabbit hole in order to become new. But for some reasons, having a character called Alice, who is also from the USA, England by the way, just seemed to on the nose. I am not the biggest fan of the show, but if we get an American spin-off, much like Scare, Gam, and Train to Busan are doing, I'm going to be miffed anyway. Those are just my thoughts on Alice in Borderland season. If you have any opinion on the same film, free to share them in the comments section. Alice in Borderland Season 3 almost ends on optimistic note for Arisu and Usagi before it hints at an ominous news twist in its final moments. However, before it reaches its ambitious conclusive arc, it walks through another gripping survival adventure that Arisu and Usagi brave against to return to the real world. The Netflix's Japanese live-action show began with a time jump that reveals Arisu and Usagi are in a relationship after season 2. Final events all seem to have ended Well 42 character. Before Usagi's unresolved grief for her father's death prompts her to fall for Ryuji's trap, who takes her back to the Borderland. Ryuji makes a deal with the Banda, who become a resident in the Alice in the Borderland Season 2 ending and agree to bring Arisu back to the Borderlands, hoping to have Arisu as a fellow resident. Banda promises to give Rijo a glimpse of the afterlife if he brings both Arisu and Usagi to the Borderlands, and he kills Usagi to make Arisu stay in the water between life and death. Everything goes as planned for Banda, but Arisu eventually defies before Alice in Borderland Season 3 and credits start rolling. Arisu looks forward to his life with Osaki. However, things take a dark turn when a world-ending disaster suddenly emerges on the horizon. Arisu and Usagi safely return to the real world in Alice in the Borderland Season 3 final after Arisu makes the choice of living instead of dying. Even the former comes with the pain and tragedy. However, before Arisu makes the choices, the man in the hat in the borderland, without delving into the detail, he claimed that sometime massive is about to happen in the real world, which will eventually lead many souls to be borderland, the world between life and death. It seemed like Arisu and Usagi will live happily ever after when they return to the real world and anticipate the birth of their child. However, it soon becomes evident that the man in the house prediction is coming true. Multiple earthquakes hit upon Japan before Arizo lands from the news that significant shift in the tectonic plates have been noticed all over the world. With this, the show ending scene seemingly unfold in California, hinting that the story a kid may have player from across the globe. In the final scene, the camera also zoomed in on the name badge of a waitress at an American dinner, revealing her name to be Alice, since Aristo's characterization represented Alice from Alice in the Wonderland in the show's first three seasons. The final scene seemed to be revealed that the next Alice will likely be an American woman. Alice in the Borderland Season 3 ending suggests that the Ariso and Usagi's Borderland adventures are far from over. Given how the ending hits at the introduction of a new protagonist, however, it's hard not to wonder if the true Japanese character will return for a potential follow-up. If they do, they will likely find themselves in the Borderland again after the hinted about ending even hits the planet and drives many souls to the Borderland. More players from all over the world would mean more competition for Arisu and Usagi, which would significantly increase the stack and reduces the odds of their survival. For now, since Arisu and Usagi have safely made it back to the real world, they can live peacefully and happily for a while Arisu has a strong reason to embarrass his life. Usagi too has finally overcome her grief for her father's ultimately demise. Both Alice's in Borderland characters have come a long way for where they started. When Arisu first meets the man in the hat, he wonders if he is the Joker. The man reveals that he is nothing but a god or gatekeeper, a rival between life and death. He also tries to convince Arisu to accept that, but agrees that he himself chooses to stay in the borderland because he fears that himself. The original Alice in the Borderland manga hints that the Joker is more of a ferryman who is responsible for carrying the dead to the nether world. Although the man is this had seemed to be fulfill a similar role in the series, he confirmed that the Joker is neither a good nor actual human figure. The man in the hat invites Ariso for a game card soon after he appeared in the Borderland. He draws into the random cards from the deck and asks Ariso to choose only one. He tells him that if the card he chooses turns out to be a joker, he'll not get to decide his fate. Ariso ends up selecting a joker card before realizing that both his choices were the same. When he confronts the man in the hat and he accuses him of cheating, the man explains that the deck of cards has 4 souls with the 13 cards each, and the sum of our cards 344. With the additions of one joker, it becomes 365, which is the number of days in a year in the mortal realm. Even add another joker, the sum goes up to 366, which is the number of days in a leap year. By drawing these parallels between the cards in a deck and the human calendar, The man in the hat implies that the Joker cards are mere gestures who fill the gaps in time and even in life debt. He then includes that the Joker is not the master of the game, nor is he the ruler of a world. It's simply a card. His explanation suggests that the Joker card represents contingency and illusion of the control. It is a mere placeholder, and choosing it means surrendering to the fragility of human agency. Toward the end of Alice in the Borderland Season 2, both Banda and Yobake choose to stay in the borderland as citizens instead of returning to the real world because it offers them endless opportunities. Although Banda seemed content with his decision in Season 3, he wishes to make the borderlands more interesting. Owing to this, he comes up with a meticulous plan to bring Arisu back to the borderlands, hoping that he will eventually become one of the citizens that make the borderlands even more fascinating than knowing that Ryuji has an undying desire to see the afterlife. He first targets him. He promises Ryuji that if he brings Usagi to the borderlands, he will let him see the northern world. Banda also tells him about Usagi's grief for her father and asks him to use it as tool to draw her to the borderland. The citizen does this because they understand that once Osagi enters the borderland, Arisu will undoubtedly follow. Ryuji's backstory revealed that he was one of his students and he had agreed to experiences near death in an experimental setup so that they could learn more about the afterlife. However, to his dismay, the student never woke up after the procedure. Crushed by his guilt, Ryuji tried to take his own life but survived the Borderland games and returned to the real world. His return convinced him about life beyond death, but he struggled to prove his prevail in his scientific community. Pandas offer gave him the chance of finally which he was beyond humanity perception of life and he seemed willing to do anything to unlock those secrets. Usagi is the Japanese word for rabbit, just like the symbolic white rabbit and allies into the Wonderland in the original Lewis Carroll. He gets the opportunity to kill Usagi is the Borderland and have what he wanted, but he lets go of both. He this because he recalls how his unchecked ambition in the past led to the death of his student. While he considered killing Usagi on that occasion, he realizes some knowledge in not worth sacrificing morality and innocent lives. Before its dark ending twist, Alice in the Borderland Season 3 reveals that Arisu wakes as a counselor. The show features a sequence in which Arisu patient answer one of the intergoing questions. What gives them a reason to laugh? What makes these questions fascinating is that all of Arisu's patients turn out to be the supporting character from Alice in the Borderlands Lesson 1 and 2. The following characters are featured in the sequences. This closing scene adds a layer of the nostalgia to Season 3, reminding the viewer of all the key players who helped Arisu and Usagi win the first time. Brief appearance as them particularly makes Season 3 a lot better because major role in the installment. It's hard to discuss season final in review. After all, we don't want to spoil the experience for the prospective viewer, but merely give an idea of whether the show is worth it or not. Still, when things get as chaotic as they do at the end of Alice in the Borderland Season 3, we can't help but add a side note about it. Suffice it to say, the story does not have a satisfying conclusion, opting for spectral and inexplicable choices instead of narrative. Cohesive characters change their minds about important plot point out of the blue, and the show gains a magnitude that it show is not ready for deal with. The show's characters suffer most from the absence of a source material to adopt. There are some seeming progresses for shippers who enjoy their parroting. Indeed, Alice in the Borderland Season 3 has many flaws. Nevertheless, it is not a bad watch. It has its moment of fun, emotions, horror, and love. The series still offers pretty entertaining episodes as a whole, with thrilling games and interesting dynamic between at least some of the characters. However, this third run certainly does not live up to the greatness of Alice in the Borderland first season. It does not even fall in the same category as the same more messy season 2. It is bar for the weakest link, and we can't shake the feeling that this absence of an original source has something to do with it. Time has passed since Arisu, Kento, Golden Usagi, their friends escaped from the borderland in Alice in the Borderland Season 3. The couple is pulled back into the deadly world as threat intensely and revelations expose the true nature of the perilous places. When the series began, it pulled you in quickly with sudden danger and a constant level of attention that never let up. As the games played out, you learned about the cast and length they were, or were not willing to go to live, keeping the focus on the cast and the challenges they faced. Let the series deliver what it needed to at a clip that rarely let up. For the bulk of Alice in Borderland Season 3, this remains true. Once Ariso and Usagi find themselves back in the family vaccine world, the game begins in the earnest. Each game is creatively crafted, allowing for complex rule and ingenious solution. Even after 3 seasons of watching the character discover loophole that could lead to a show that it remains enthralling. The nature of the numerous threat and the demands they make on both the mind and bodies of the constant greatly help the thriller stay fresh. What will be demanded next is always unknown. Give how with some of the early game, are the sky is truly the limit as the danger escalates. New characters are introduced to travel alongside the starring duo as well. This expanded cast are initially brought in with minimal backstory. Blink and you will miss them flashback and explanations allow the audiences to understand the major beats of their personalities without telling out the story initially. However, while this work at the beginning of Alice in Borderlands Season 3, it becomes a problem as things progress. Every new character still gets a significant amount of time in the spotlight. This saves much of the tension from the most critical challenges, as well as undercuts when some of the characters inevitably die, being shown a tragic backstory minutes before offering a character attempt an emotional response that feels shape. Alice in Borderlands Season 3 would have been better served by giving a couple of characters some backstory, sprinkled in among its earlier episodes, where the writer's thoughts in the progress would be less notable and more natural. Making this approach even worse is that the most impactful that occur in character for whom no full backstory is given. A barrage of backstory is not the only stumble in the backyard of allies in Borderlands Season 3. The final episodes also find themselves weighed down by overwrought exploration of a new questions. What is the borderland? As everything is crashing down around the surviving player, that show grinders everything to a hard a poke at what this world actually is. There are so many aspects of these choices that fail. Not only is it timing terrible, but nothing is truly gained from this course it alleges. It's a try to add a grand, dramatic element to a series about surviving deadly games so a satellite does not shoot you in the head with a laser beam. The theatrical style of drama, the ending strives of our could not worked had it been present all along. Instead, it just feels wired out and out of place and disappointed. Despite the best offers of those whose liberty moment, the strong acting extends beyond the conceived ending. The entire cast brings a feeling of genuine presence to the narrative. They each feel like they are not property, equipped for the threat behead, and are making do as they best can. How they react into both seeing that and causing it does a lot to pull you in, making you want to see certain character survive and another die. Another element that helps bring the world of Alice in Borderland Season 3 to life is the cinematography. There is ton of great camera work in the season. Tension and danger are often greatly amplified thanks to immersive camera placement. Even more striking is now wonderfully the camera capture the rare quiet moment. In a couple of key scenes, all is calm, with the game just completed. The tension is released and the threat is rightfully earned. What a camera does, combined with the gorgeous lighting in some of these moments, drives the power of the pace home. There are few and far between here. so the production gets very meaningful lengths out of them they can. The presentation is also aided by some strong visual effect. A truly calamitous moment are brought to life thanks to skillful CGI. These moments are swung into practical sequences as well, helping to blend the computer enhanced moment with the real life shot. There is also a fun moment where I initially believed I had caught the show in poorly implemented attempt at green screening our background, only for it to be revealed that it was the way for a decision. The purposefully limitation of the moment made the final purpose of it far more reasonable, that of it looked flawless until it was explained. Alice in Borderland Season 3 delivers a lot of what fans will expect this series, only to stumble at the end. Poor backstory, implementation, and an attempt to expand the scope of the world weighed down the final episodes, leaving the season 2 land with a largely underwhelming third. Alice in Borderland Season 3 has created immense excitement among the audiences worldwide. It is gearing up to release on Netflix within a few days, and the viewer have expectations due to its previous season. As fans wait for its release, the early reviews of Alice in the Borderland Season 3 are out. If you are interested in watching the third season, then read about it here. The reviews for the show are mostly positive, with some critics even calling it one of the best final. Meanwhile, other reviewers share that the show has left reviewer with questions. Alice in the Borderland is back on Netflix's first final season and has one of Netflix's best files. Alice in Borderland Season 3 stars Kento and Cho in the lead role. Hyuncho Aika, who plays Aristo in the show, talked about his experience of working on the third season. He shared since Aristo and are split into the separate team. I found it interesting to see the different atmosphere and character dynamic within each group. Over the season, the characters have become too beloved by fans, and I think that's why the audiences can really empathize with them during the life or death moment. Uesin and Usagi added, everything Usagi has experienced in the past season is now part of her story. So whenever I needed to, I would go back and rewatch season 1 and 2, with season 3 featuring an original story. I felt it was important to approach this role with everything that's happened so far in mind. As the player become more disparate, everyone's platforms become more intense and dramatic. I think this game really captures the essence of Alice in Borderland. It's about life and death, and about discovering how you truly want to live. Before season 3 landed on Thursday, September 25, I began the first two installment and watched the media review of the new season and quickly remembered why the story, violent and surprisingly completely serious and had me hooked in the first place. For the uninitiated, the show follows a distracted gamer Arisu. Spoiler alert, not everyone makes it out alive. If you are not to Alice in the Borderland, you may read the show overarching warning that very choices could be your last as a reflection of society growing flirtation with belief that its life is inherently devoid of meaning, purpose, or value. With Borderland new a psychological rather than physical realm, the season turns its focus to what comes next after surviving a traumatic event. For Usagi, now married to Ariso, lonely and less than linear, haunted by a dream of her dead father and an unshakable desire to mend her wound. She is pulled back into the borderland with the help of a man. Aristo, meanwhile, is thrust into the borderland by his own desperate quest to find his wife. Even the couple don't reunite on screen until halfway through the season. To remain true to the essence, the team returned to the source. In the 1865 classic, Alice follows the right rabbit down a rabbit hole. We had to really contemplate why the original author of Alice in Borderland had his work echo Alice in Wonderland, and that took us back to the Lewis Carroll. Having done season and 2, My character's emotions for Arisu are very solid. They never wavered, even if we were shooting separately. And I think that's something you can see some across. Editor is just via an interpreter. Like Alice down the rabbit hole, those who go back to the borderland, he is an earner driven by rash act of despair, but a purpose, a noted producers Akira, and takes in the Netflix's prescript. Returning to Borderland may suggest they are not exactly clinging to life, but each character must live with the intention in the parallel dystopia to outwit its Mersal games. The loglines about episode 5 base game, for example, state that each room reveal possible future and only those brave enough to face their own pain can advance. No surprises here, not all too. Arisu has grown from the past season, and he tried to do his best to save as many people, or not lose any many people, as possible. The story cuts into this inner human struggle, especially with the psychological battle shared lead actor of his character via a Japanese interpreter. Season 3 opens one of the busiest districts in the Asian metropolis and mini spoiler and in the future destruction. That visual is not necessarily philosophical. Sato said, but it's central to the series theme. These include existence versus mortality, merit versus luck, and pointlessness versus purpose. Ideas that we confront in real life. Ariso is a stand in for all of us. Our real questions in existence. Sato explained a regular man whose life turns the moment he crosses into Borderland Ariso story could exist only in a Tokyo turned upside down. I will admit I expected allies in the Borderland psychological backdrop to feel like a gimmicky abstraction. Instead, it surfaces the show core message. Life's choices are really black and white, and who are is fogged in the murky gray before we act. Some people are propelled by choice, others paralyzed, but the point is not to obsess over searching for a single right answer, even if we are doing it mentally, as allies in the borderland remind us. It is perhaps to grasp that every decision carries consequences and that agency never disappears, even in our head. Perhaps especially there, we are all one choices away from a different life. Having done season 1 and 2, my characters' emotions or Ariso are very solid. They never wavered, even if we were shooting separately. The third chapter of the Netflix series moves beyond heroes as heroes manager, meaning new games and new characters, including the mysterious who draws Usagi back into the Borderland. Sadly, fan favorite like the Kiona are not back for the game. Also, there is a surprise for viewer at the end. As for Arisu, it should came as a surprise that he had back into the world he escaped from to save his wife. He would sacrifice his life for Usagi, but does he? Warning spoiler ahead. Now you will be pleased to know that both Arisu and Usagi survive after clearing the Joker games, as does their baby with the pair discussing the name for their unborn child in a final act. Their peace is soon interrupted by an almighty twist, but for now they are alive and well. It's touch and go for a moment in the Alice in the Borderlands Season 3 final when the team plays possible future, a game in which they roll a dice and move between the different rooms within a grid to reach the exit. There are plenty of the room that raises the stack. For instance, the number on the dice indicate how many players can move into the next room. They have to choose between the variants of their future, and if their 15 points reach zero, they are eliminated aka killed. The questions of Ariso survival comes up as he decided in the final round to sacrifice himself to save the rest of the team, including the and their unborn child. However, there is twist, it turned out that by sacrificing himself, he is won the game. While trapped in the room, he sees Usagi, Ryuji, and the remaining player in a fake Tokyo as it collapses around him and started to flood. Against all odds, Arisu managed to save the team, aside from Usagi, and when he gets back for his wife, he is faced with the Banda, one of two players who decided to stay in the Borderland after the Queen of Hearts was defeated in Season 2. Banda is the whole reason Arisu is back in this place. He believes Arisu is the best player and so he drew him in by using the usage as bait essentially for his own entertainment. In their final confrontation, Arisu says he will never accept his offer to stay and goes to shoot him, thereby killing Arisu in the real world. But just before he pulls the trigger, he is eliminated by the infamous beam of light. A mysterious new character enters, the Watchman played by none other than Ken. His arrival seemed time itself stands still, with the Watchman inviting Ariso to one final game. This involves two cards placed face John on the table. If Ariso picks the Joker, the Watchman gets to choose his fate. When Ariso discovers both cards are Joker, the Watchman gives him the choice: jump into the vortex and die, knowing that he will be back here one day and that means no more suffering or life and endure the pain there brings. Ariso chooses to return to the land of the living with Usagi, at which point Stam starts up again and he hears Usagi screaming. He is able to find it and save her, but lets himself get shocked into the vortex while his real life body flatlines. Usagi and Aristo survive and are seen preparing for their baby in the real world. But this is allies in the borderland we are talking about, and so of course there is a twist. Right at the end of the Alliance in the Borderland Season 3, the world is about to be rocked by a prophetic natural disaster, with the camera closing in a waiterless in LA who is wearing a name tag Alice. You see, during his conversation with Ariso, you see during this conversation with Ariso and Washman claim that the space between life and death will soon be flooded with many people as something terrible will happen in the real world. Something much bigger than the meteoritic obstacles. It's hard to tell if this is just the watchman trying to mess with his head. It would not be the first time in the borderland, and Aristo thinks nothing of it when he makes it back home with Usagi. However, after Aristo conducts a series of interviews with previous players, including Tsuchiya and Kyona, he heads back to his office when all of a sudden an earthquake hits. They decided to switch on the news, where it is revealed that the unprecedented seismic activities has been recorded in the regions across the planet, including in the Japan, Europe, and the US. Allies in the borderland then pulls a scare game and cuts to America, where two men enter a bar and order a couple of drink. The waitress whose face is not shown heads back to the bar and turns around, at which point the camera closes in on her name badge. So, what exactly does this mean? Well, firstly, we are probably getting season. Secondly, the watchman was correct. A disaster unlike anything the planet has ever seen is coming. It opens up whole new world of the Netflix show. One is which we could see hundred, if not thousands, of new players entering the space between life and death. But one big question you will be no doubt have is who is the hell is allies? Up until now, the allies in the title comes from Ariso. His surname is a Japani rendering of Alice, and the title is play on Alice's adventure in the Wonderland. Give the series makes a point of showing us a woman named Alice and an unprecedented natural disaster is said to impact the region. She is in the most he could be seen as a setup for American spin-off. But like Scare Games ending, it's unclear whether this is the true intention or if the creators simply wanted to end the series with an entertaining twist. Whatever the case, the cast and crew are game for more from this world. Just keep in mind that no plan are set in stone right now. In a recent interview, the Radio Times asked directly Satu about the potential for future season, to which he replied, If you are asking me whether I would be interested or not, I would certainly say yes. Alice in Borderland Season 3 is streaming on Netflix now. For more on what to rewatch, check out the best shows of 2025, so far the most banger what series, and everything that's coming up with our 2025 TV series calendar. After a long wait, Netflix has finally released all 6 episodes of Alice in Borderland Season 3. The final chapter in Arisu, our beloved Joe, has faced out not only several deadly games but also their inner demons to finally be able to move on from the trauma of purgatory. Like previous seasons of Alice in Borderland, the ending of the third season was not a straightforward one. So, if you are having trouble grasping what happened in the end, here is everything you need to be know about Alice in the Borderland Season 3 ending. In the very beginning, we see Arisu and Usagi happily married. However, does not take very long to figure out that Usagi was not really all joyful. She was having dreams about her father committing the suicide. Usagi very quickly realizes that was won't get her answer in the real world. However, Usagi's vulnerability was used by the Banda, who also used him as a puppet. In the beginning, everyone was confused as how Banda was able to hand our Joker card to the concessions in the real world. It turns out that he arrived in the real world to hand over those cards. In fact, the first person they met was apparently Ryuji felt guilty for unknowingly killing his student over their obsession with the afterlife. All that guilt made Ryuji even more desperate to learn about the afterlife, so he was a perfect person for Banda to manipulate. But why exactly does Banda do all this? Well, the short is that Banda wanted Ariso to say in the Borderlands. To understand this, let's go back to the Allies in the Borderlands Season 2. We all know that it was Ariso who defeated the final face card, the Queen of the Heart, by beating that game. Ariso made it possible for everyone to return to the real world. Well, almost everyone, Banta, was one of those people who decided to go stay in purgatory and become a citizen. However, deep inside his heart, Banda knew that he himself did not earn all this. And it was Ariso who defeated the games. And like they all say, a clever mind seeks the company of a clever mind. So Banda wanted Ariso to return to the borderland and become a citizen as well. And that's why Banda asked Ryuji to manipulate Usagi to return. Ariso would follow Usagi as well. Banda wanted Ryuji to kill Usagi in front of Ariso. So the trauma of losing his wife would compel Ariso to stay in the borderland. In the end, everything happened as Banda wanted Ariso, and Usagi arrived in the borderland. And after surviving the several games, they reunite. But what Banda did not expect was Yuji going against the plan. The man realizes his mistake and decided to help Ariso, and Usagi survived the game, instead a decision that cost him his life. In the end, Banda does face Ariso and explains to him that he wants Ariso to stay in the purgatory. However, as expected, Ariso refuses Banda offer, after which the psychotic killer tried to kill Ariso. However, before he could harm Ariso, the laser from the sky killed Banda for losing the game. After that, a mysterious entity arrives in front of Ariso, who explains that Joker is not a real person in the Borderland. This man confirmed that he is, in fact, the gatekeeper between life and death. At this point, we learn that Joker is not any powerful being or person. It's simply a representation of the gateway between life and death. Finally, this man gives Ariso two choices by offering him two Joker cards: return to the real world or stay in the borderland. As expected, Ariso decided to return to the real world, where he can hold Usagi's hand After returning to the real world, Arisu heads to the hospital, where he finds out that Usagi has come out of the coma. However, he learns that Ryuji is dead. We see Arisu and Usagi sharing moment together before you believe beloved Kyuna and Chris visit Arisu in the clinic where he works. In the concluding moments, we see that seismic activities has been recorded all over the world, which could mean climate change that could impact every country, including America. So, the creators of Ape can very well use this ending to create an American version of Alice in the Borderland. In fact, in the final moment, the show takes us to the America. We see a couple of guys ordering food in the restaurant, and guess what? They are being waited on a girl who is wearing the tag that says Allies. If this is not indication of an American version of Allies in the Borderland, then I don't know what is. That being said, Netflix would definitely take the performances of season 3 of App to decide whether they want an American version of the TV show. If of course the creator comes up with an actual idea of a script. Alice in Borderland Season 3 has created immense excitement among the audiences worldwide. It is getting up to be released on Netflix within a few days, and viewers have expectations due to its previous season. As fans wait for its release, the early reviews of Alice in the Borderland Season 3 are out. If you are interested in watching the third season, then read the verdict here. The reviews for the show are mostly positive, with some critics even calling it one of the best final. Meanwhile, other reviewers share with the show has left the viewer with questions again. Alice in Borderland is back on Netflix for its final season, and it has one of the Netflix's best final yet. Alice in Borderlands Season 3 stars Kento and Chow in the lead role, who plays Arisu in the show, talked about his experience of working on the third season. He shared since Arisu and Usagi are split into the separate team. I found it interesting to see the different atmosphere and characters dynamic within each group. Over the seasons, the characters have become so beloved by fans, and I think that's why the audiences can really empathize with them during the life or death moment. Cho, who is seen as Usagi, added, everything Usagi has experienced in the past season is now part of her story. So whenever I needed to, I would go back and rewatch season 1 and 2, with season 3 featuring an original story. I felt it was important to approach this role with everything that's happened so far in mind. As the player become more desperate, everyone's performances become more intense and dramatic. I think this game really captures the essence of Alice in Borderland. It's about life and death, and about discovering how you truly want to love. She further revealed the series will release on Netflix on September 25. If you are a fan of the survival thriller filled with mystery, high stake of tension, and unexpected twists, Alice in the Borderland has likely earned a spot among your favorites. When Alice in the Borderland wrapped up its second season back in 2022, fans were confused about whether that conclusion spelled an end for the show. After all, while the series offered a pretty final answer to what had happened to Arisu, Kancho, Usagi, and the other, it also presented us with the possibility of a third run in the form of a new god. The Joker had also the main behind the original series that inspired the Netflix show. Teased the existence of the god but never envisioned this entity creating its own game. There is a sequel series to his Allies in the Borderland titled Allies in the Borderland Retra. It features a one of nine of Hearts game and not a Joker. Still Netflix's adaptations went on. And when season 3 premiere, we'll get the answer to our questions regarding this new entity and how Arisho will come to face off against it. Using just one or two elements from Esso's Allies in the Borderland Retra as well as some elements from the original series, that did not make it through first two runs. Alice in the Borderlands Season 3 opened with the Arisu and Usagi participating in a series of interviews for a study on the afterlife. The two are living their best life as a couple after leaving the borderland behind. But there is still something nagging in the back of their mind, something that will eventually draw them back to their place between life and death. With a new cast of characters by their side, Arisu and Usagi will have to find and exist if there are events to see the world of the living again as they fight for their lives. Viewer are treated to even more elaborate and givers game, but are they actually any good? Alice in Borderland Season 3 starts strong. Some of its initial premiere is a bit absurd, but it's nothing that audiences can't overlook. In the name of the magic of television, for a while, it seems like the series is going to avoid that Game of Thrones cuts that so often dooms adaptations that go beyond their source material. Likewise, the show premises to avoid the excessive of season 2, which sacrificed a lot of character development for big face office in even bigger site. The first few games are shown. Of course, one would not expect anything different from a card that presents itself as even more threatening than the face card. But it also feels simple with a dimension group a player that it does not take long to get attached to. Even it is somewhat easy to tell who the red shirt here. However, something shifts as the story goes on, and it shifts so abruptly that you can almost split Alice in the Borderlands Season 3 into two parts. One that features fun game on a smaller scale, and one that gets so go big or go home that it becomes impossible to even track what the games are about. Rules become too intricate and change in the middle of play, something that might make sense of the follies who expect of a joker, but that will undoubtedly deal a blow to the audience's attention span. The real charm of stories